Imagine holding a simple copper coin in your hand, a coin that millions of Americans once used every single day to buy candy newspapers or a morning cup of coffee, yet hidden within that small coin is a story that stretches back to the heart of the American spirit. The Lincoln penny of 1963 is not just a piece of change, it is a reflection of history, politics, art, economics, and the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln. When we dive into the story of the 1963 penny, we uncover a tale that begins decades earlier in 1909, when the Lincoln cent was first issued to mark the centennial of Lincoln's birth. It was the first circulating American coin to feature a real person, and it carried with it the power of symbolism representing honesty, leadership, and unity. By 1963, the Lincoln penny had been in circulation for more than half a century, and the United States was a nation in transition. The early 1960s were a time of optimism and tension. The country was experiencing rapid economic growth. The space race was underway, and civil rights movements were gaining momentum at the same time. International pressures and Cold War rivalries shaped policy decisions and influenced every level of society. Coins minted in this period were more than pocket change. They were silent witnesses to an age of transformation. The Lincoln penny of 1963 was struck at two principal mints, Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia Mint produced coins without mint marks, while the Denver Mint carried the letter D beneath the date together. They created hundreds of millions of these cents, ensuring their wide circulation in every corner of the country to the average person. It was just a penny, but to the collector and historian, the 1963 cent holds a mirror to the culture and industry of its time. These coins were struck primarily from an alloy of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving them the distinctive reddish-brown tone that collectors still admire. Today, their weight was 11 grams, and their diameter was 19 millimeters, specifications that had been standard for decades and would remain until the dramatic changes of 1982, when rising copper prices forced a shift in composition. The obverse design of the 1963 penny retained. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln, created by Victor David Brenner in 1909, his profile facing right, is a design that remains instantly recognizable, even to those who are not coin collectors, above his head. The motto, "In God We Trust," is prominently displayed. The word liberty rests to the left, and the year 1963 is positioned to the right for coins minted in Denver. The small d appears just below the date. This design, although simple, has endured for over a century, and its familiarity is part of what makes it so iconic. On the reverse of the 1963 penny, we find the wheat ears design created to accompany the Lincoln portrait. When the coin first debuted in 1909, two stylized sheaves of wheat frame the words 1 cent and United States of America above them. The national motto, E pluribus unum, reminds us of unity through diversity. By 1963, this reverse design was nearing the end of its era, as it would be replaced in 1959 by the Lincoln Memorial design. However, many 1963 pennies still featured remnants of earlier striking techniques, and their artistic clarity often varies depending on how well the dies were prepared. To understand the full story of the 1963 Lincoln penny, we must also consider the broader economic context of the time. In 1963, the United States was moving through a period of sustained growth. The Kennedy administration sought to strengthen the economy through tax reforms and public investments. Inflation was low, unemployment was improving, and consumer spending was high. In this environment, coins circulated widely, and the production of cents was crucial to everyday commerce. The mint had to balance efficiency with quality, ensuring that billions of coins could be produced quickly yet accurately. Any small change in metal prices or minting technology could have wide-reaching consequences, which is why the composition of the penny remained stable until the economic pressures of later decades forced adjustments. Collectors today often study The 1963 penny for its varieties, errors, and minting quirks, while most examples are common and hold only face value in circulated condition. There are rare exceptions. Coins with doubled dies repunched mint marks or off-center strikes can fetch significant interest and value for numismatists. These varieties are not merely curiosities, they are historical evidence of the minting process and the challenges of mass production. In the early 1960s, each error tells a story of human oversight or mechanical imperfection. And for many collectors, the hunt for these anomalies is part of the thrill of numismatics. But the story of the 1963 penny does not end with its minting or even its circulation. It also lives on in the cultural memory. Of the time, a penny in 1963 could buy a stick of gum or a piece of candy. School children might have filled jars with pennies as savings, and countless Americans dropped them into wishing wells or pressed them into the hands of children as tokens of luck. The Lincoln cent was everywhere from city streets to rural general stores, and in its quiet way, it linked generations together as we expand this history into a full journey lasting hours. We can trace the origins of the Lincoln cent back to the political climate of 1909, the influence of President Theodore Roosevelt on coin design, the artistry of Victor David Brenner, and the evolution of American coinage through the first half of the 20th century. We can follow the penny through the Great Depression, when copper shortages forced experimentation with alloys, through World War II, when steel cents were introduced in 1943, and into the post-war years when prosperity and innovation reshaped American life by the time we arrive. At 1963, the Lincoln penny stands as both a familiar constant and a reflection of change. To fully explore the 1963 penny, we would also journey into the lives of collectors and historians, those who preserve rolls of uncirculated coins in pristine condition, those who search for rare mint errors under magnifying glasses, and those who study the economic reports of the mint to understand how production decisions were made. We would look at how the penny functioned in the economy of the time, what role it played in the everyday life of Americans, and why it remains so symbolic today, even as discussions continue about whether the penny should still be produced in the 21st century. The Lincoln penny of 1963 is more than a coin. It is a chapter in the long story of American currency. It reflects the craftsmanship of the mint, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, the economic realities of its age, and the enduring connection between a nation and its money. To hold one today is to touch a piece of living history, a reminder that even the smallest denomination can carry with it the weight of culture, art, and memory. And when we unravel its story, we discover that the humble 1963 Lincoln penny is not just pocket change, but a window into the soul of America. Imagine holding a small copper coin in your hand, a coin so ordinary that millions of people have carried it in their pockets, used it in daily transactions, or left it forgotten in jars and drawers across the country. Yet when you look deeper into the story of the Lincoln penny from 1974, you find a fascinating chapter of American history, economics, politics, and numismatics all woven together into a single coin. The year 1974 is one of the most discussed and analyzed in the history of the Lincoln cent, not simply because it was part of the long-running series honoring Abraham Lincoln, but because of the pivotal experiments, controversies, and minting decisions that defined it and made it stand out in the eyes of collectors, historians, and economists. To understand why the 1974 penny has earned such a prominent place, we must first revisit the story of the Lincoln cent itself, which began in 1909 when the coin was introduced to mark the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the coin became the first U.S. circulating coin to feature the portrait of a real historical figure, rather than an allegorical representation of liberty. For decades, the coin evolved slightly with design modifications, changes in mint marks, and adjustments to the reverse, but its importance in the American consciousness remained steady by the 1970s. The penny had been circulating for more than 60 years, and the U.S. Mint faced serious challenges: rising inflation, And soaring copper prices made it increasingly expensive to continue striking 1-cent coins with the traditional copper alloy. By 1973 and into 1974, the price of copper had grown so high that the metal value of the cent was approaching, or in some cases even exceeding, its face value. This situation put the government in a difficult position, since producing coins at a loss was unsustainable. The mint began to consider alternatives, and 1974 became the testing ground for one of the most remarkable experiments in modern U.S. coinage history. The United States Mint authorized the production of experimental cents made from aluminum instead of the standard copper alloy. The aluminum cent of 1974 became one of the most famous coin stories. In modern times, with over 1 million of these coins initially struck in Philadelphia and distributed to members of Congress for evaluation. However, the experiment faced opposition from various groups. Medical professionals expressed concerns that aluminum coins would not be visible on X-rays if accidentally ingested, which posed health risks. Vending machine companies worried about the effect on their machines, since many were calibrated for the weight of copper-based cents. Collectors and numismatists debated what such a dramatic change in composition would mean for the tradition of the Lincoln cent. Ultimately, the mint decided to abandon the aluminum experiment and recall the test coins. Although the vast majority of these experimental 1974 aluminum cents were destroyed, a few are believed to have escaped into private hands, which has fueled decades of controversy and legal disputes, since the United States government still considers them to be its property. This story alone has given the 1974 penny a legendary status among collectors, but the history does not stop there. The regular circulation strikes of 1974 were produced in massive quantities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, with the Philadelphia coins lacking. A mint marked the Denver coins, bearing the D mark, and the San Francisco mint, producing both circulation strikes and proof issues for collectors. The composition remained the traditional bronze alloy of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. These coins, though ordinary in appearance, carry with them the shadow of the aluminum cent experiment, which forever altered the perception of the Lincoln penny. The proof sets of 1974 stand out as remarkable examples of craftsmanship, each one meticulously struck with sharp details, mirror-like fields, and frosted devices reflecting the skill of the San Francisco Mint. At that time, for collectors, these proof coins remain a gateway into understanding the broader historical and economic context of the period. The year 1974 was not only about the composition debate, it was also about the broader state of the American economy. The nation was reeling from inflation, the oil crisis, and political turmoil connected to the Watergate scandal. Every coin struck during this era is in some sense a small piece of a turbulent decade that reshaped the United States. The Lincoln cent served as a daily reminder of stability in the face of change, with the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln anchoring the nation's smallest coin. Even as the government struggled with bigger financial challenges, collectors also pay close attention to varieties and errors from 1974. As with many years in the Lincoln series, there are double dies repunched mint marks and other striking anomalies that have fascinated specialists and provided countless opportunities for in-depth study. These varieties have added richness to the history of the year and expanded the ways in which collectors engage with the penny. Market the enduring interest in the 1974 penny. Both ordinary strikes and the elusive aluminum tests underscores the deep connection between coinage and national history. Coins are not merely tools for commerce. They are cultural artifacts that tell the story of their time. The 1974 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how a seemingly ordinary coin can embody debates about economics, technology, politics, and tradition, making it a centerpiece for collectors and historians alike. When we look back today, we see that the 1974 penny bridges the past and the future. It looks back to the legacy of Victor David Brenner's original design from 1909 and to the long-standing tradition of copper coinage in America, but it also points forward to the changes that would come later in 1982 when the mint finally transitioned from copper to a predominantly zinc composition. The story of 1974 reveals the challenges of adapting coinage to economic realities while respecting public expectations and traditions. In the end, the penny survived the aluminum experiment, but the lessons of that year still resonate in numismatics and in the broader story of American money. Whether you are a seasoned collector, a historian, or simply someone who has picked up a penny from the ground without giving it a second thought, the 1974 Lincoln cent offers a story worth exploring. It is a reminder that even the smallest coin in your pocket carries with it a tale of ingenuity, controversy, adaptation, and resilience, making the history of the 1974 penny not just about the coin itself, but about the very fabric of American life and the challenges of a nation in transition. The year is 1983, and the American economy is shifting rapidly. The country is emerging from a recession, the Reagan administration is pushing for economic recovery, and inflation is being controlled but quietly and without fanfare. Something remarkable is happening at the U.S. Mint. A small copper-colored coin is rolling off the presses, a coin that would go unnoticed by millions of Americans, a coin that appears to be worth just a single cent, the 1983 Lincoln penny. To understand the significance of the 1983 Lincoln cent, we must begin with the legacy of the Lincoln penny itself, introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. It was the first regular issue U.S. coin to feature a real person. The obverse of the coin, designed by Victor David Brenner, features a right-facing profile of Lincoln, while the reverse originally displayed two wheat stalks, known as wheat ears, that symbolized national prosperity. For decades, the Lincoln penny was struck in a bronze composition made of 95% copper and 5% zinc and tin. But as the value of copper rose dramatically during the 1970s, the U.S. Mint was forced to consider alternatives. By 1982, a major change occurred. The Mint decided to switch from a copper-based composition to a primarily zinc-based one. The new pennies were made of 97.5% zinc and coated with a thin layer of copper, resulting in a coin that looked the same but was fundamentally different. This is where the mystery of the 1983 Lincoln penny begins. In 1983, all official cents were struck using the new copper-plated zinc composition. The Mint had already phased out bronze planchets in 1982. But something strange occurred. Despite the switch in composition, a small number of 1983 Lincoln cents were mistakenly struck on bronze planchets. These rare off-metal errors would go unnoticed for years, only to be discovered by sharp-eyed collectors. The weight of the coin offers the first clue. A standard zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams, but the bronze cent weighs about 3.1 grams coin. Collectors who weigh their pennies sometimes come across an oddity: a 1983 penny that weighs too much. This immediately raises suspicions and sparks further investigation in numismatics. Such weight anomalies often mean something valuable and rare has been discovered. In fact, the first confirmed 1983 bronze Lincoln cent was found in the early 2000s and authenticated by the Independent Coin Grading Service as well as PCGS and NGC. These coins are exceedingly rare. With fewer than a dozen known examples, they are considered mint errors of the highest caliber and command high prices at auction. One such coin sold for over $18,000. Another has been valued upwards of $20,000 depending on condition. Collectors hunt tirelessly for these errors, hoping to find the next hidden treasure in circulation. Even today, someone could be walking around with a rare 1983 bronze penny in their pocket. But even among the standard 1983 zinc pennies, there are rarities. Collectors look for strong double dies, particularly on the reverse of the coin. A double die occurs when the die used to strike. The coin has a misalignment during its creation, resulting in a coin with doubling. In the design elements, some 1983 pennies exhibit strong doubling in the words 1 cent and United States of America, making them desirable collector pieces. Now we must turn our attention to the production process and how such rare errors come to exist. The U.S. Mint operates at incredible speed and volume, producing billions of coins each year. It is not uncommon for leftover planchets from the previous year to remain in the production line. These leftover bronze planchets from 1982 may have been inadvertently used to strike some 1983 cents at the Philadelphia Mint. These coins have no mint mark, as the Philadelphia Mint did not use one for pennies in that era. Therefore, a 1983 penny without a mint mark weighing 3.1 grams is almost certainly struck on a bronze planchet and is highly valuable. These mistakes are not simply manufacturing flaws. They are historical artifacts, remnants of a time when the mint was transitioning from one metal composition to another. It is worth noting that these error coins are not found in proof sets or mint sets. Because they were struck for general circulation, this means the only way to find one is through pocket change, coin rolls, or bags from the bank, making the hunt even more exciting for everyday collectors. Numismatists also study the condition and strike of these coins. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. A mint state 65 coin can fetch many times more than a lower grade example, and if the coin shows full strike, no wear, and clean surfaces, it may qualify for red designation, meaning it retains its full red luster from the minting process. The rarity and value of the 1983 Lincoln cent error coins has created a surge of interest in Lincoln pennies. Overall, collectors are now re-examining their old jars of change and running magnets over coins to test for zinc or copper. They are weighing their pennies and inspecting them under magnification for signs of doubling. This phenomenon has brought new life to the coin collecting hobby, especially among younger generations and those looking for alternative investments. In uncertain economic times, people see coins not just as currency, but as pieces of history, each telling a story of its own. And the story of the 1983 Lincoln penny is one of mystery, transition, and rare opportunity. As time goes on and more collectors become aware of the 1983 bronze penny, its value continues to rise. Some experts speculate that as few as 10 or 15 exist, making it rarer than many gold coins minted in the 19th century, even in circulated condition. These coins are considered treasures and should be certified and protected immediately upon discovery. Collectors also examine the differences between the Philadelphia and Denver Mint issues. The Denver Mint used a D mint mark, and although no bronze 1983 D cents have yet been confirmed, the possibility remains that one could surface in the future. And if it does, it would likely command an even higher premium due to its extreme rarity. The world of coin collecting is full of hidden gems, and the 1983 Lincoln penny stands out as one of the most intriguing modern rarities, whether it is a doubled die reverse or the legendary bronze planchet error. This coin has captured the attention of the numismatic world and continues to fuel the dreams of collectors and treasure hunters across the nation. So the next time you hold a penny in your hand, look closely, weigh it if possible, and examine it for doubling, because you might just be holding a piece of history, a rare American coin that defies the odds and proves that even the smallest denomination can hold tremendous value. Your pocket, and why collectors are scrambling to find the rarest ones before they disappear forever. Rare American coins, where today we are diving deep into the rich and evolving history of the Lincoln penny and its modern marvel, the 2023 edition. This journey is not just about a 1-cent coin. It is about the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, the United States Mint, the evolution of American currency, and the hidden gems that lie in your pocket change. The Lincoln penny has a story that dates back to 1909, when it replaced the Indian head cent and became the first United States coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic image. Victor David Brenner's design honored the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln and was inspired by a plaque he had made of the former president. Since then, the Lincoln penny has gone through many changes in design, metal composition, minting locations, and production technologies, but through all those changes it has remained a cornerstone of American currency and a favorite among collectors. Now fast forward to the year 2023. The Lincoln penny continues to be produced by the United States Mint. Even though its purchasing power has diminished over time, still it holds enormous value in the world of numismatics, especially when unique minting errors or rare varieties emerge. The 2023 Lincoln penny is minted at multiple locations, including Philadelphia, which typically bears no mint mark, Denver, which uses the D mint mark, and San Francisco, which uses the S mint mark for special proof sets. These mint marks play a significant role in determining the coin's value and collectability, and each one tells a different story about the journey of the coin from the mint to your hands. The obverse side of the 2023 Lincoln penny continues to feature the timeless bust of President Abraham Lincoln, originally sculpted by Brenner but modified over the decades to reflect modern aesthetics. The reverse side still displays the Union Shield design, first introduced in 2010, replacing the previous Lincoln bicentennial designs. The Union Shield represents the unity of the states and the preservation of the Union, which is central to Lincoln's legacy, and it symbolizes strength, federal authority, and American history. This design includes 13 vertical stripes joined at the top by a single horizontal bar representing the federal government uniting the original 13 states. The 2023 penny is made from a core of zinc coated with a thin layer of copper. This has been the composition since 1982, when the U.S. Mint changed from the previous 95% copper due to rising material costs, while the modern zinc core makes the coin lighter and cheaper to produce. It also introduces potential minting issues such as plating blisters, lamination errors, and zinc rot, all of which can affect the value of a 2023 penny, especially if they appear in unique ways. These flaws are often seen under magnification or with careful examination by a trained collector, and the rarest ones can fetch premiums far beyond face value. Now let's dive into known and rumored varieties of the 2023 Lincoln penny. Early reports from coin roll hunters and collectors have mentioned double dies die, cracks off center strikes, and more. One of the most notable errors includes a double die obverse where the words "In God We Trust and Liberty" appear slightly duplicated due to a misalignment during the minting process. Another sought-after variety is the misaligned die strike, where the obverse and reverse do not line up correctly, giving the coin a slanted or off-center appearance, which can drastically increase its desirability among collectors. And some coins have been found with struck-through grease errors where part of the design is missing or faint, because debris blocked the die during minting, creating ghost-like impressions that make every affected coin unique. Proof versions of the 2023 penny struck in San Francisco are another major focus of collectors. These proof coins are not intended for circulation and are struck with special dies on polished planchets to give a sharp mirror-like finish with intricate detail and high contrast between the raised and flat areas when housed in their original packaging, and accompanied by a certificate of authenticity. Proof pennies hold considerable value, but if they contain any form of error or anomaly, their worth can multiply instantly. Let us not overlook the importance of grading when it comes to modern pennies. Grading agencies such as PCGS and NGC play a critical role in verifying authenticity, assessing condition, and assigning a numerical grade on the 70-point Sheldon scale, a 2023 penny, in mint state 68 or higher. With full red designation is a premium find, especially if it is a rare variety or contains a mint error. In fact, some MS68RD 2023 Lincoln pennies have already been sold for over $50, depending on their condition and pedigree, making them a hot target for both amateur and professional numismatists. Beyond the coin itself, the 2023 penny exists in a fascinating economic and political context. Calls to eliminate the penny have grown louder in recent years, with arguments that it costs more to produce than its face value. However, the mint continues its production, citing public demand tradition and vending compatibility. In this sense, the 2023 Lincoln penny is not just a coin, but a cultural relic symbolizing American values, frugality, nostalgia, and historical continuity. Its continued existence in the face of economic pressure highlights its place in American life and commerce. Educational institutions still use pennies in math and economic lessons. Families pass down penny jars as traditions, and children across the country get their start in coin collecting with this humble copper-colored cent. This makes the 2023 penny not just a collectible, but a gateway into American heritage for values, frugality, nostalgia, and historical continuity. Its continued existence in the face of economic pressure highlights its place in American life and commerce. Educational institutions still use pennies in math and economic lessons. Families pass down penny jars as traditions, and children across the country get their start in coin collecting with this humble copper-colored cent. This makes the 2023 penny not just a collectible, but a gateway into American heritage for future generations. And when combined with the mysteries of minting errors, rare varieties, and low mintage anomalies, the penny becomes an object of endless fascination. Let us now explore in detail the role of the mint facilities in shaping the 2023 penny. The Philadelphia Mint, being the oldest in the nation, often produces the highest number of circulation coins, which means most 2023 pennies without a mint mark hail from this facility. Denver, with its D mark, tends to produce pennies with sharper strikes and fewer errors, but every once in a while certain batches escape with dramatic mistakes which are hunted by roll searchers and dealers. The San Francisco Mint, although focused on proofs and special issues, remains the home of the most visually stunning 2023 pennies, and its role is essential in serving the numismatic collector market. As we move further into 2023 and beyond, it is highly likely that new varieties, new errors, and new market trends will continue to emerge, making this coin even more desirable. Keeping track of coin auction records, eBay sales, and dealer reports is crucial for any collector hoping to strike gold with a modern penny, and coin shows often reveal previously unknown varieties through show-and-tell interactions and first-time discoveries. So anyone holding rolls or bags of 2023 pennies should examine them closely, as they might be holding a fortune without realizing it. In the final analysis, the 2023 Lincoln penny is more than just the latest edition of a familiar coin. It is a small but powerful link in the chain of American history. It connects generations of collectors. It reflects the mint's evolving technologies and practices, and it reminds us of the enduring legacy of Abraham Lincoln himself. Whether you are a new collector, a seasoned numismatist, or simply curious about what your pocket change might be, hiding this coin deserves your attention and appreciation. Keep your eyes sharp, your tools ready, and your mind open, because the story of the 2023 Lincoln penny is still being written every day by the people who search, study, and collect it. Thank you for staying with us through this in-depth journey into the Lincoln penny of 2023. If you enjoyed this video and want more deep dives into rare American coins, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another discovery from coin history. Value tips to rare finds and collector secrets. We are just getting started. Stay tuned and stay curious. Your pennies think again. This 2-hour deep dive will change the way you see every single cent you hold. The story of the 1988 Lincoln penny begins long before its minting in the year 1988. The Lincoln cent itself traces its origin back to 1909, when President Theodore Roosevelt commissioned sculptor Victor David Brenner to redesign the 1-cent coin as a tribute to President Abraham Lincoln, who remains one of America's most iconic historical figures. The Lincoln penny became the first regular-issue U.S. coin to bear the likeness of an actual person, and it marked the beginning of a new era for American coinage. The wheat reverse design used from 1909 until 1958 symbolized prosperity and growth, but the design would evolve in 1959 when the Lincoln Memorial reverse was introduced, marking the 50th anniversary of the Lincoln cent. This reverse would be used until 2008, but in the late 1980s, the Lincoln cent underwent subtle changes that have since become the stuff of legend for collectors and error hunters alike. The 1988 Lincoln penny is one such coin that has grown in importance over the years due to its transitional varieties and the continuing interest in doubled dies and reverse design anomalies. To understand the significance of the 1988 penny, one must first understand the context of the minting technology in use. At the time, during the 1980s, the United States Mint had transitioned from bronze cents to copper-plated zinc cents. Beginning in 1982. This switch was made primarily to save costs, as the rising price of copper had made the bronze composition too expensive. The new cents consisted of a core of 97.5% zinc, plated with a thin layer of copper to achieve the traditional penny appearance. This new composition, however, came with its own challenges, especially when it came to striking sharp details and avoiding plating bubbles, corrosion, and other issues that have since created opportunities for rare error coins within this transitional era. The 1988 Lincoln cent stands out not only because of its general mintage, but because of a particular reverse variety known as the wide AM and close AM design difference, which became a major point of interest for collectors. These design variations stem from the fact that the United States Mint was in the process of updating master hubs and dies, which occasionally resulted in coins being struck with unintended design elements on the 1988 Lincoln penny. There is the famous transitional reverse design error known as the RDV006, or the so-called 1988 double die reverse. The reverse design variety involves the use of the old reverse design from earlier, proofs being used accidentally on business strikes. This means that some 1988 pennies have a reverse with sharper, more defined details, especially around the designer's initials FG, which stand for Frank Gasparo, the mint engraver who originally designed the Lincoln Memorial reverse collectors, began discovering these rare transitional varieties through meticulous searching, often using magnification to inspect the designer's initials and the spacing between the A and M in America. Such discoveries sparked a wave of excitement among coin roll hunters who began searching millions of pennies in circulation in the hopes of finding a rare transitional piece that could command hundreds or even thousands of dollars at auction. The rarity and desirability of these transitional varieties make them prime targets for counterfeiters, which has added another layer of complexity for modern collectors. Authentication of these varieties often requires expert grading services, which examine the coin's die marker's hub characteristics and strike details to confirm its legitimacy. The story of the 1988 Lincoln penny is not only about transitional errors, but also about the general state of the American economy and coin production. During the late 1980s, the decade had seen significant changes in the minting process with improved die-making technology and quality control. Yet the sheer volume of coins being produced meant that some errors were inevitable. The Denver Mint and Philadelphia Mint were the primary producers of the Lincoln cents for that year, with billions of pennies struck in total. Yet it is the subtle differences the collector must focus on to identify value within this sea of ordinary coins. The wide AM and close AM varieties became famous partly because the design intended for proof coins found its way onto circulation coins, an error that would continue to intrigue collectors well into the 21st century. As demand for high-grade specimens increased, collectors began submitting thousands of these coins to grading companies such as PCGS and NGC, hoping to receive high mint state grades or varieties attribution. This created a robust secondary market where even common coins in exceptional condition could command premiums. Meanwhile, the Story of the Lincoln penny cannot be told without mentioning the broader cultural impact. The Lincoln cent remains one of the most collected coins in the world, with millions of Americans starting their numismatic journeys by filling penny folders from circulation. The humble penny teaches people to appreciate history, art, and economics all through a small piece of metal. The 1988 Lincoln penny, with its transitional errors, represents the perfect crossroad between mass production and collectible rarity. With each example found, the legend of the 1988 double die and reverse design varieties grows further, encouraging new collectors to look deeper into their pocket change, searching for that elusive piece of numismatic history over time. Stories emerged from coin shows and online forums about people who found these rare varieties in unassuming rolls purchased from banks or received in change from everyday transactions. These stories fueled the dream that anyone could strike it rich with just a penny. The thrill of the hunt became a unifying force among collectors, creating a community of passionate numismatists, sharing tips, photos, and authentication insights to help one another find and verify these elusive coins beyond transitional reverses. The 1988 Lincoln cent is also notable for the various minor die errors that can occur. On copper-plated zinc cents, these include off-center strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, and plating bubbles. Each of these errors contributes to the unique story of the coin and can add incremental value depending on severity and eye appeal. It is important to remember that not all errors command significant premiums, but they add character and diversity to any collection. A comprehensive study of the 1988 Lincoln penny should also include its impact on modern coin design, as the mint prepared for future design changes that would eventually see the introduction of the Lincoln Bicentennial series in 2009. This series commemorated the 200th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent itself, which shows how the design evolution of the penny is a testament to America's respect for tradition and its ability to adapt to changing times today. The market for the 1988 Lincoln penny remains strong, with dedicated collectors and investors seeking high-grade examples and known varieties. Online, auctions, coin shows, and private sales continue to bring these coins to market, where condition and provenance can dramatically affect final prices. This is why education and community are so important for anyone interested in the world of rare coins, building knowledge about die varieties. Minting processes and authentication techniques is essential for making smart purchases and avoiding counterfeits that could undermine the integrity of a collection. The allure of the 1988 Lincoln penny lies not just in its rarity, but in its accessibility. While some coins fetch premium prices, others remain affordable enough for novice collectors to add to their folders, sparking a lifelong passion for numismatics. The humble penny, once dismissed as mere pocket change, has proven itself time and again as a gateway to history, art, and the fascinating stories that money can tell. So whether you are a seasoned numismatist or just starting your journey, take a closer look at every Lincoln penny that passes through your hands, because hidden within those copper-plated zinc discs might be a piece of history that connects you to the story of a nation, the legacy of a beloved president, and the thrill of discovering something rare in the most unexpected places. Keep searching, keep learning, and keep collecting, because in the world of coins, every cent has a story, and the 1988 Lincoln penny is a story worth telling and retelling for generations to come. Stay with me as we dive into every detail, every hidden story, every twist that makes the 1983 Lincoln penny one of the most fascinating coins in American numismatic history. The story of the 1983 Lincoln penny starts long before the coin was ever struck. It begins with the legacy of the Lincoln cent itself, which was first minted in 1909 to honor the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth. The designer Victor David Brenner created the famous bust of Lincoln that still graces the obverse of the penny today. Over decades, this coin witnessed the rise and fall of empires, wars, depressions, and moments that defined a nation. But the year 1983 stands out as a turning point in the history of this humble coin. By the early 1980s, the United States Mint was grappling with rising copper prices, since copper was becoming too expensive for a coin worth only 1 cent. In 1982, they decided to change the composition of the penny from 95% copper to a cheaper plancher made of 97.5% zinc with only a thin copper coating. This switch was meant to save the government millions, but it also opened the door to one of the most intriguing minting errors and varieties in modern coin history. During the transition, the mint struck pennies with both the old and new compositions, creating a complex world for collectors who would spend years trying to sort out what existed and what did not. By 1983, the mint was supposed to be well into the new zinc plancher production, but as you know, in the world of coins, nothing is ever simple. Collectors later discovered that a small number of 1983 Lincoln pennies might have been mistakenly struck on copper planchers left over from 1982. These off-metal errors are incredibly rare and can fetch thousands of dollars if authenticated. But this is not the only thing that makes the 1983 penny so special. Perhaps the most famous variety is the 1983 doubled die reverse variety, a stunning example of hub doubling. This variety shows strong doubling in the words 1 cent and E, pluribus unum on the reverse side. This doubling happened when the working die used to strike the coins was misaligned during the hubbing process. The result is clear bold doubling that can be seen even with the naked eye. Collectors prize this variety because strong doubled dies are relatively scarce in the Lincoln cent series. After the 1972 doubled die, obverse the 1983 doubled die, reverse stands as one of the most significant finds, and if you think about how many billions of pennies are produced every year, the odds of finding one of these gems in pocket change are both daunting and exciting. Now imagine the thrill that swept through the collecting community when news of these doubled dies broke. In the late 1980s, people everywhere began hunting through jars, drawers, and rolls of pennies, hoping to find that elusive treasure. Stories abound of lucky collectors who found a doubled die reverse in circulation, selling it for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. The allure of the 1983 penny does not stop there. The switch to zinc planchers in the early 80s created a host of new problems for the U.S. Mint. The zinc core is much softer and more reactive than copper, leading to corrosion issues. Plancher bubbles and blisters over time. Collectors have found many 1983 pennies with unsightly blisters on the surface, caused by gas trapped between the zinc core and the copper plating. These plating issues gave rise to a subset of error coins that some collectors love to study and categorize. Though most blistered pennies are not worth much, they serve as a reminder of the challenges the mint faced during this transition period, and they add to the mystique of the 1983 issue. To understand how special this coin is, you have to look at the bigger picture. The 1980s were a time of technological advancements at the mint, but also of growing pains. As the mint experimented with new compositions and manufacturing techniques, errors like off-metal strikes doubled. Dies and plating blisters tell the story of a government operation trying to balance cost efficiency with quality control, and sometimes falling short. Yet it is these imperfections that make coin collecting so thrilling. Every small error, every unexpected variety becomes a window into the past, a clue to what was happening inside the mint. At that time, imagine you are holding a 1983 penny. Look closely at the date, the mint mark if there is one. Then turn it over and inspect the reverse under good light. You might see crisp doubling in the letters, or you might notice unusual surface features that hint at a minting error. Thousands of collectors spend hours searching boxes of pennies from the bank, looking for that special piece that could change their collection and maybe their fortune along the way. They learn the art of grading coins, examining strike quality, luster, toning, and the subtle signs that separate a common penny from a valuable rarity. The 1983 penny also ties into broader questions about the future of the cent itself. For decades, economists have debated whether the United States should stop producing the penny altogether given its cost to manufacture and limited purchasing power. Yet despite the debate, the penny endures perhaps because of its deep cultural roots and nostalgic value. Lincoln's profile staring off into the distance connects us with a vision of unity and freedom that still resonates with Americans today. When collectors hold a 1983 penny, they hold a piece of that story. They hold the tension between cost-cutting and tradition, between mass production and the human fascination with error and rarity. The story of the 1983 Lincoln penny is a story of transition, a story of mistakes that became treasures, a story of how even the smallest coin can carry a legacy that spans centuries and connects generations. When you see a 1983 penny, remember to check its weight. A genuine copper penny will weigh about 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny will weigh about 2.5 grams. That small difference could mean the difference between pocket change and a windfall. Keep your eyes sharp. Check for that doubling. Inspect for off-metal strikes. Learn about die varieties and stay curious, because the world of coins rewards those who dig deeper. Over the decades, countless collectors have built entire collections around Lincoln cents, each date and mint mark telling a unique chapter in a saga that began with Abraham Lincoln himself, the man who guided a nation through its darkest hours, whose image graces the coin that millions touch every day. Whether you are new to coin collecting or a seasoned numismatist, the 1983 Lincoln penny stands as an invitation to explore, to question, to dream of finding that hidden gem that the mint never meant to make, yet somehow slipped through the cracks of history. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the story of the 1983 penny, you know there are many more stories just like this waiting to be uncovered. So keep hunting, keep learning, and remember that sometimes the most valuable treasures are hiding in plain sight, in the change rattling around your pocket or the old jars on your shelf. The next time you find a 1983 penny, take a moment to really look at it, hold it to the light, think about its journey from the mint to your hand. Imagine the machines, the engravers, the inspectors, the countless hands that touched it along the way, and know that you are part of that story too. A story that will keep unfolding as long as there are people curious enough to look closer, to ask questions, and to cherish the smallest pieces of our shared history.